Ever wondered what brought an end to the devastating 30 Years' War? The answer lies in a monumental event known as the Treaty of Westphalia. As the 17th century dawned, Europe was a continent in turmoil. The Holy Roman Empire, a vast collection of territories in Central Europe, was embroiled in a bitter religious conflict. The Protestant Reformation had challenged the dominance of the Catholic Church, and nations were divided along religious lines. This religious tension ignited the 30 Years' War, a brutal and bloody conflict that ravaged the continent for 3 long decades. Parallel to this, the 80 Years' War was raging between Spain and the Dutch Republic. The Dutch, eager to throw off the yoke of Spanish rule, fought fiercely for their independence. This protracted conflict was yet another layer added to the intricate tapestry of unrest that characterized this period of European history. The impact of these wars on Europe was profound. Lives were lost, economies were shattered, and societies were left in ruins. The religious schisms widened, and the political landscape was irrevocably altered. The urgent need for resolution was palpable, and the cries for peace echoed throughout the war-torn lands. In the midst of this chaos, the seeds of a solution were sown. The concept of a diplomatic congress was proposed, a meeting of the minds where representatives from the warring nations could come together to negotiate peace. It was a revolutionary idea, one that promised a path towards resolution and a chance to heal the deep wounds inflicted by years of conflict. The stage was set for this significant diplomatic congress. The cities of Osnabrück and Munster were chosen as the venues for these crucial negotiations. The air was thick with anticipation and hope. Little did the participants know that the outcome of these talks would not only end the wars, but would also forever alter the course of European history. The stage was set for a significant diplomatic congress, one that would forever alter the course of European history. Now imagine a series of intense negotiations taking place over several years in the cities of Osnabrück and Munster. This was the backdrop for the peace talks that would culminate in the Treaty of Westphalia. These negotiations were a complex dance of diplomacy, a high-stakes game where the future of nations hung in the balance. The players? Representatives from the Holy Roman Empire, the Dutch Republic, Spain, Sweden, France, and numerous other European powers. Each had their own interest to protect, their own visions for the future of Europe, and the challenges they faced were immense. They had to navigate the intricate web of alliances and enmities, the religious tensions, and the territorial disputes that had fueled the wars in the first place. One of the key principles they grappled with was cuius regio, eius religio, a Latin phrase meaning, whose realm his religion. This principle allowed rulers to choose the religion of their states, a revolutionary concept at a time when religious uniformity was often enforced. The negotiations around this principle were fraught with difficulty, as they had to balance the desire for religious freedom with the risk of further sectarian conflict. Then there were the discussions about territorial changes. The 30 Years' War and the 80 Years' War had redrawn the map of Europe in blood and fire. Now the negotiators had to decide how to distribute land among the various powers. This was a delicate task, as any perceived imbalance could reignite the flames of war. But these negotiations were not just about resolving these immediate issues. They were about something much larger. They were about setting the stage for a new order in Europe, an order based on the principles of state sovereignty, balance of power, and legal precedent. These negotiations were not just about ending wars. They were about setting the stage for a new order in Europe. In 1648, the Treaty of Westphalia was finally signed, marking a new era in European history. This monumental agreement was not simply a ceasefire, but a grand blueprint for the future of the continent, and in many ways for the world beyond. One of the most significant provisions of the treaty was the establishment of religious freedom. Stemming from the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, the treaty allowed rulers the ability to choose the religion of their own states. This was a groundbreaking move in a time where religious conflict was a common cause for war. It was a step towards tolerance and acceptance, a beacon of light in an era too often shrouded in the darkness of religious strife. Then there was the recognition of state sovereignty. The Treaty of Westphalia didn't just end wars, it laid the groundwork for the modern system of sovereign states. Each state, regardless of its size or power, was recognized as autonomous. This notion of sovereignty was revolutionary, providing the foundation for the balance of power that would shape future diplomacy and international relations. And let's not forget the significant territorial changes that came about as a result of the treaty. Land was redistributed among various powers, leading to a reshaping of the geographic and political landscape of Europe. This was not just a change of borders on a map, but a reconfiguration of influence and power. The Treaty of Westphalia was more than a peace agreement. It was a blueprint for the modern system of sovereign states. It was a manifestation of the idea that diverse nations, with different religions and cultures, could coexist in a system that respected their sovereignty and balanced the scales of power. It was a beacon of hope in a war-torn world, a promise of a future where diplomacy would triumph over conflict and where the rights of states and individuals would be respected. And though it was signed in the 17th century, its impact still resonates today. But what happened after the ink dried on the Treaty of Westphalia? The immediate aftermath of the Treaty of Westphalia was a sigh of relief that reverberated across Europe. The 30 Years' War and the 80 Years' War, both brutal and devastating, had finally come to an end. The landscape of conflict was forever changed, replaced with a newfound understanding of religious freedom and state sovereignty. The treaty established the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, meaning whose realm, his religion. This principle allowed rulers to choose the religion of their states, thus altering the religious map of Europe and establishing a degree of religious freedom. The rights and protections of religious minorities were also addressed, marking a significant stride towards religious tolerance. The Treaty of Westphalia also laid the groundwork for the modern system of sovereign states. By recognizing the autonomy of individual states, it fostered a sense of national identity and independence. This was a pivotal moment in history that shifted the balance of power, creating a new diplomatic landscape. The agreement led to significant territorial changes in Europe, redistributing land among various powers. These changes in turn influenced the political dynamics of Europe, shaping future diplomatic relations and strategies. In essence, the Treaty of Westphalia was a catalyst for the political evolution of Europe. Moreover, the Treaty of Westphalia set a legal precedent for conflict resolution. The negotiations, which took place over several years in multiple sessions, established the concept of a diplomatic congress. This approach to peace talks became a template for future international relations, setting the stage for diplomatic discussions, negotiations, and treaties to come. But the impact of the Treaty of Westphalia extends beyond Europe. It continues to influence the principles of international law and the conduct of international relations worldwide. The concepts of state sovereignty, religious freedom, and diplomatic negotiations it introduced remain cornerstones of our global society. The Treaty of Westphalia, though centuries old, continues to influence our world today. So, what have we uncovered about the Treaty of Westphalia? Well, we've journeyed through the tumultuous period leading up to this historic agreement, the intricate negotiations that took place behind closed doors, and the far-reaching aftermath of the treaty. We've seen how the Treaty of Westphalia, signed in 1648, marked the end of two significant wars: the 30 Years' War within the Holy Roman Empire and the 80 Years' War between Spain and the Dutch Republic. We've delved into the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, a crucial tenet of the treaty that allowed rulers to decide the religion of their states. This established a degree of religious freedom, a concept that was fairly revolutionary at the time. We've also explored the concept of state sovereignty, another groundbreaking idea that the treaty introduced. By acknowledging the autonomy of individual states, the treaty laid the foundation for the modern system of sovereign nations we know today. We've discussed the balance of power that the treaty sought to maintain among European nations, a principle that would greatly influence future diplomatic endeavors. We've looked at the substantial territorial changes that the treaty brought about, redistributing land among various powers, and reshaping the political landscape of Europe. We've touched on the years of diplomatic discussions and negotiations that led to the treaty, a process that took place over several sessions in the cities of Osnabrück and Munster. We've examined the impact of the treaty on Europe, setting legal precedents for future treaties and international law concerning conflict resolution. And finally, we've considered the treaty's provisions for the rights and protections of religious minorities within certain territories, a vital component that should not be overlooked. In essence, the Treaty of Westphalia was a transformative event in our shared history, one that forever changed the way nations interact with each other. Next time you ponder the complexities of international relations, remember the Treaty of Westphalia, a turning point in our shared history.